Can you believe it? China and the US have signed a trade deal. No, for real this time. Well, it's according to some sources, and it's apparently, quote, in principle, whatever that means, but this is the real deal this time, we're told. Fundamentally, agreements, deals, understandings are all good things if both sides feel they've won. But this trade deal isn't really what was supposed to happen, of course. This is just window dressing. What's underlying this has and always will be the true issues between these two nations. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at what has happened between China and the US. This has been anticipated for quite some time. Here we are right now. Brand new information has just been released. Obviously, I had to do a video about it because it's so integral to what we've seen in the markets, to the economy around the world, in fact, global economy that has really been lacking a trade deal. There has been so many concerns around this. And first they were going to do a big trade deal. This was what was expected. That really fell through. It was pretty obvious. The two sides couldn't agree on anything. Then they went towards an agricultural purchase from China. Everything else was basically scrapped. That's all they could agree on at that point. Apparently, we heard that $50 billion worth of agriculture from the United States would be purchased by China. Later on, we heard that that number didn't actually exist and that it was an agreement down the road that they would purchase agriculture. So we don't know where the number came from exactly. Nothing was signed in writing whatsoever. Here we are though, December 12th, they officially have supposedly signed a deal. US reaches phase 1 deal in principle on trade with China, sources say. So we don't know that for sure, but the sources have said it. This is what the market has been anticipating. They have priced this in literally hundreds of times, but apparently here we are. There's this article out of the same newspaper, of course, the Financial Post. US and China reach substantial phase 1 trade deal. The only problem with this article is that it was written in October. So we have basically the same information 3 months apart. It wasn't true back in October. Perhaps it's true now in December. Now I wanted to take some points from that December article and speak on this issue because obviously this is so integral to what happens with the global economy. The White House has reached a deal in principle, and I want to stop there because we've seen this many times before where this deal in principle is actually nothing substantial. What does that mean exactly? Well, of course, they haven't signed anywhere. There is no paperwork. There is nothing official at this time of recording. At this time, when the stock market is sure to go up much, much higher in tomorrow's trading session, this deal in principle means absolutely nothing. As far as I'm concerned, until it's on paper, which may likely be the case, doesn't mean anything. The White House is expected to make an announcement on Thursday, according once again to this source. The written agreement is still being formulated, but they have reached an agreement in principle. So they do not have it formulated. That means it's not in writing. They don't even fully have it down packed. It's just in principle. But we've already had this last year, if you think about it. They had the agreement between the two of them that China wants to buy US agriculture. They had this understanding that the US was not too happy about the intellectual property, and so that was one of the sticking points. They battled back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What both sides wanted was understood last year. Yet here we are today discussing the exact same thing. So I want to see exactly what this deal has, and as far as I'm concerned, there's going to be a lot of these surrounding that trade deal. We're going to have questions, more questions than answers, but of course we'll see. One of the important points here is that the US actually stepped down from that rhetoric of being tough. They're going to cut back the tariffs. They're not going to impose them. And as far as the existing tariffs, they may cut as much as 50%. So we'll see what happens, of course, when the details come out. I know many were expecting that to be the case simply because they have to make concessions on both sides of this. I think it's pretty clear that if this actually goes through, if there's even anything in here here. It doesn't have to be substantial whatsoever. I'm talking 2 names on a piece of paper, a handshake, anything that's going to make the market rocket higher. And it will be sustained, of course, because of our friend quantitative easing. With the introduction of QE4 that's been going on, we know that the market is really pushing for this. And so with the trade deal, even though it's not a real trade deal potentially, as well as the Fed and their insane quantitative easing policies, we know where the market's going. But there are some issues here. This happens to be just one point. China's foreign minister says at symposium, the US has successively angered and suppressed China. So on the same day that we get news that there's supposedly this trade deal, we have information from such a high-level source saying that the US is pissing off China. There's some deeper activities that go beyond this agricultural purchase deal. One of those things being intellectual property. This was back in June of 2019. United States suspends WTO intellectual property litigation against China. I don't know if there was any other information on this. I personally didn't see any afterwards, but I just wanted to show you the fact that we've been dealing with this for a little while now. This happens to be one of the most serious points. The US doesn't want to give up on it, and China doesn't really want to do anything with it. I think the trade deal could have a suggestion that in the next phase, this would be clarified. And of course, they'll never get to the bottom of it. That's just an expectation though. So of course, we'll see what happens. But beyond all of this, I think it's really important to understand what's really going on here. You know, we're always seeing the headlines of trade optimism. Now, trade optimism is fantastic because, of course, people want to know what's coming in the future. They want to be able to feel that next year, if I'm doing goods, I'm importing them, I'm exporting them, that this business is going to stay in place. China and the US being 2 very big economies, they have such an impact on what's going on globally. Other countries are affected by what occurs between these two. At the same time, you get a slowdown in the economy that's going to affect a lot of these countries, okay? You're looking at Brazil maybe, or Australia, or Canada, or anybody else. They are all going to be impacted by what we see should there be a slowdown. Now, we have noted so many different indicators that basically since 2018, they had been heading downward. So they kind of peaked out in 2018 and then had all started coming down. Now this has turned around slightly when you look at some indicators such as the PMIs. If you look at information like the ISM, though, we are getting still contraction. Okay, so we are at this inflection point right here. I do believe that if we get the trade deal, and of course we have our QE, particularly if we get a full-fledged QE4 before the end of the year, as suggested by Credit Suisse, Zoltan from Credit Suisse, I think that this could definitely send the fake statistics that we see in the economy, not, for example, what people are sleeping on the streets, huge headaches for a lot of individuals right now, 10 years into a bull market in the stock market. But regardless, what we're looking at here is that a lot of these stats, I do believe, will be heading higher, including the market. Now, that can change in an instant because of derivatives, because of everything that we have in this convoluted, messed up system. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But in the shorter term, this is going to benefit the markets. There's no doubt about it. I've been talking about this a long time, that if they do even get a phase 1 garbage trade deal, the markets are just going to trade on that. The algorithms are going to love it. They're going to love it and they're going to pump it up. You know what's funny? You can do a search online and you will find that trade optimism is just incredible. It's unbelievable to see that this word, or the 2 words, trade optimism, come up in so many different articles related to the current day's performance. So you watch, market comes up by 200 points. And what's the reason? Optimism. That's right, optimism. And the next day, you get the market's up 150. 50. What is it? Trade optimism. Fantastic. All the while, we have had nothing. There has been nothing. Still today, as I record this, we have nothing. We have sources, sources, and sources. And this word here is used over and over again. And unfortunately, it is used at so regular of intervals, of a pace, that it means nothing anymore. That's what's scary, because you can't trust it. Well, anyway, I've made my points here. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section. I think this is really important because of the impact that it will have, not just between these two countries, but of course to the markets and to the economies around the world. There is an undeniable destruction and wealth inequality that we are noting in different countries, top to bottom, all over the place, that cannot be resolved by the actions that have been taken by any of these governments or any of these central banks. That's not going to change. What they're doing with derivatives has created a monster they cannot control. But in the short term, they can certainly kick the can down the road. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. That's right. When you hit one button, when you click that button, you're supporting this channel. Do appreciate that very much. If you want to build a business, if you want to learn about passive income, this course is free. It's absolutely free. The Amazon GPS teaches you step by step how to do it. Check it out at theamazongps.com. If you want to learn about what's going on between China and the US, if you want to understand the monetary system, these two books have everything that you need. I broke it all down, made it very easy to understand, no jargon, none of that garbage. Check it out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, themoneygps.com. Hang on, hold on. Have you seen this video? It is really important. I just did it and broke down everything you need to know about what's going on with the Fed. Check it out. I'll see you there.